everybody. Welcome back to Bear Clan's Hiking Sedona podcast. Episode 22 today, we're going to be talking about hiking Bear Mountain. So of all the hikes in Sedona, you can kind of understand that there's a little bit of a connection with me and Bear Mountain for obvious reasons. But a lot of you may not know this, but in my first week ever in Sedona years back, Bear Mountain was one of those things I thought was an absolute must, and I didn't even know about it until I got to Sedona. I didn't do a whole lot of research, plus there weren't a lot of resources at that time to show me what hike trails were, so I just figured I'd kind of figure it out myself. And looking around and doing some tiny research between a couple of days, I found this one spot called Bear Mountain. I was like, okay, gotta do it. So I get over to the trailhead for Bear Mountain, which happens to be located right at the same parking lot for Doe Mesa. And I take a look across the road and I see this gorgeous looking formation, this red rocks and this beauty. And I'm going, oh, that doesn't seem that bad. And I'm going, okay, well, let's see how it goes. So I cross the street, start doing the hike. I get up to the first bench area. Pretty casual, a nice little elevation gain. The wall is pretty interesting, the first wall. So I start climbing up a little bit, and then I find this neat little rock formation to the right. I kind of go and check that out. And then I say, all right, it's time to continue. I've been lollygagging enough. So I start walking around onto the south end of the rock formation, and it starts going up a little bit, nothing too major. And then I get up to this little scamper area, and it seems like it's going up this wall, and it's pretty decent. A couple of handheld moments and stuff like that, grabbing a tree, that sort of thing. Nothing too extreme. I get up top of this area, and it kind of flattens out like a mesa, and I'm going, wow, Bear Mountain, I'm thinking it wasn't nothing. It was a piece of cake. I was wondering why I heard it as being such a difficult hike. So I sit there on the mesa and I'm enjoying the sunrise and enjoying the beautiful views. And I see this man coming by me and he goes, hey, you heading up to the top? And at that point, I'm thinking in my head, oh yeah, no wonder. No wonder it's so easy. I'm not even at the top. So I told him, I was like, yeah, as a matter of fact, I am. And he goes, you want to join me? And I was like, absolutely. So I start hiking with him. We get to the very top of this mesa area, and I look forward and I see this summit. And he goes, yeah, that's your summit. And I was like, really? Well, excellent. I'm looking forward to this hike. Now, folks, just as a preface for this, I grew up in the Northeast, Vermont. And in the Northeast, there's only one mountain, really, in the Northeast that has the kind of elevation gain that we have in Sedona. In fact, when I'm sitting here doing this podcast, I'm higher than basically everything in the Northeast, just as I'm sitting before I start hiking anything. So to be able to see this mountain and go, okay, I think I'm ready for it. So he says, yeah, well, we have to go down in order to go up. And he goes, yeah, there's false peaks ahead. And I do enough hiking in my life. I knew what false peaks meant. Basically, it just means when you get up to a peak, you're fooled because there's more to go. So a false peak going up Bear Mountain, it seemed appropriate. So we start going down the first mesa. Beautiful views. And, he shows me a couple of sites. He goes, look over here, look over there, look over this side. So I'm looking at all these views, taking pictures. And then he goes, let's go up. And I look and I say, okay, wait a minute. That first false peak, it kind of looks like a mountain all in itself. Excellent. So we start trudging up, or I should say, I start trudging up. He's casually walking. So he's bringing me up to this false peak, and it's got a pretty decent grade to it. And I would equate all of Bear Mountain to like a Stairmaster anyway. So I'm hiking up there, and I can feel my exertion starting to increase, and he seems to be in a good pace. So as we communicate, he says that he's a local, and he's been doing Bear Mountain, like once a month or so. And I'm going, okay, I bit off quite a bit here and didn't know what I was getting myself into. So we get up to the top of False Peak 2. Technically, it's False Peak 1, but I call the Mesa False Peak as well, since I actually experienced that mental state when I got there. I get up to the top of this False Peak, and I'm thinking, wow, this is astronomical views. I can't believe what I'm looking at. And he goes, yeah, well, we got to go down and back up again. I was like, yeah, of course we do. Of course we do. So I get moving again with him, and at this point, I realize that I'm kind of slowing this guy down. So I let him off the hook, so to speak, and I said, you know what? Thank you very much. I'm going to just get over here and take some pictures because these views are ridiculous. I said, I don't want to slow you down, so go ahead and head on up. I'll probably see you up there. Of course, not knowing exactly what I was getting myself into still. So I started taking pictures, and he just went on his pace. So False Peak number 2 comes up. And it's more intense than the first one. So I'm slowing down. I'm noticing that my steps need to be shorter and my breath needs to be more focused, and I'm going up. But as I'm going up, I'm noticing the views are starting to change around me because I'm going higher. I start looking around and I can see what I didn't know at the time was Fay Canyon, and I could start seeing some of the gorgeous rock formations surrounding it. I get up to Falls Peak number 2, and I'm looking up, and I go, well, I'll be darned, there's Bear Mountain Summit, and it still looks like it's a country mile away. It still looks like I have 6 days of hiking in order to get to the summit. So I'm saying, all right, man, well, this is what you're here for. Let's get this hike on. So I start going down the Falls Peak again, finding another nice little saddle and some ridiculous photo opportunities. I'm starting to go up the Falls Peak 3. And I noticed the rock formations have changed from the red rock into the white coconino layer or the limestone. And I also noticed that the trail kind of meanders to this, I call it a beehive style of rock formation. And it looks basically, if you're from a distance, it looks like a beehive, the way beehives are created, but not in the shape. It's just all over the place, but it does have a summit to it. So the trail kind of goes to the side, to the right side or the north side, and it kind of gets you hiking almost at an angle. So you're almost leaning to your right, hiking up straight. So it's kind of pretty intimidating, but just ridiculously gorgeous. At this point, my cardio's saying, okay, dude, you've gotten yourself into something pretty impressive. So I had to really focus on my breathing, and I had to focus on my steps and making sure that I was going to be having enough energy to make the summit. So I get up to this Falls Peak 3, and by the time I got up there, this dude is already on his way back, and he meets me at the top of Falls Peak 3. So he has already made it to the summit and on his return, and I'm barely up on top of, pun fully intended, I'm barely up on top of Falls Peak 3. So I take a nice little break up there and watch him just kind of crushing it down and back. By the time I chose to actually move forward off of Falls Peak 3 and head to the final summit, the guy was already ascending the Falls Peak 2. So he had already gone down Falls Peak 3 and was heading up Falls Peak 2. And I just thought I was there for 10 minutes. So I understood clearly where my conditioning was for hiking Sedona. I start going down this final saddle. And what was really cool is the saddle brings you into a kind of like north-northwest direction. And it starts becoming more like switchback work, which of course, great for the end portion of hiking Bear Mountain. To have switchbacks gave me a little bit of a reprieve. So it kind of made it a little bit easier. So I go through the switchbacks, and then all of a sudden it's this long, windy stretch that goes to the southern face of the summit. And I open up my eyes, and I'm looking off in the distance and seeing Mingus Mountain, and I'm seeing the Sycamore Canyon area, and I'm almost seeing all the way out to Prescott National Forest. And I just cannot believe what I'm looking at. Now, folks, at this point in time, this early in my stage of being in Sedona, I had not hiked anything higher than this. So it was that impressive. It just blew my mind, and I was really appreciating the effort that it took me to get up to the top. So I do the final scamper up to the top of Bear, and I get to the top. There's this nice sign that says end of trail. So I see that, and I just cannot tell you how much I was smiling. My body was saying, I can't believe you just did this. But my heart was saying, this is where I need to be. This is exactly where I need to be. And the conditioning that I have is definitely not Sedona hiking condition. So I learned a really tough lesson that day. But the best part about it, folks, other than the fact that I got to really see the high points of Sedona, I got to absorb and feel a little bit more connection with the land. Being at Bear Mountain and my name being Bear, it allowed me some deep meditation time to connect deeply with the summit of Bear Mountain. I had done some work before at the base, and I was feeling a lot of connectivity with the bear spirits and the bear totem, so it just made it really special. So I went up to that top summit. There's a flat mesa. I saw off in the north the San Francisco peaks from Flagstaff. At that point, they were still covered with snow, and I think it was May. Yeah, it was late May when I ended up visiting, so that told me that there's some seriously cold temps up there. And, of course, being from the Northeast, I didn't really care to do any visiting up higher than where I was. So that was kind of the pinnacle, so to speak, of my visit to Sedona. I had done several more hikes while I was there for that week. I have to say, after Bell Rock, Bear Mountain is without a doubt my favorite because of how I feel when I hike it. Now, several years have passed. I mean, we're talking over a decade. And one of my claim to fames was, I think over the years, I really felt a desire to be that guy that led me up to Bear Mountain. And I found myself one day just deciding that I was going to straight up haul ass and get to the summit and back as fast as I possibly could. Now, mind you, I had already been up Bear Mountain probably 50 times. I can't recall, but I knew I was in Sedona condition because I've been living here for a while and I've been hiking everything. So Bear Mountain to me was almost a once a month or once every other month hike. So my conditioning for Bear Mountain was epic. So I'm ready and I start my journey. I just flew up the mountain, got up to the summit and came all the way back in 3 hours. So just as an idea, folks, Bear Mountain is just around 1,800 feet of elevation, almost 1,900 feet of elevation. It's just around 3 miles in length, anywhere between 65 and 66, maybe 6,700 feet of final elevation. So for me to go up and back in 3 hours meant that I was really hauling. I felt in unbelievable shape. And in the process, I also took videos and pictures of the whole event and did a nice video for my YouTube page. And that was probably when I knew I'm really designed for Sedona hiking. I mean, I knew it before, but to be able to crush Bear Mountain in 3 hours to the summit and back, this was just pure hiking, just at a very fast hiking pace. That was pretty impressive for me, and it meant a lot to me. That's kind of like my story about Bear Mountain, folks. The truth behind it is, if you are not someone that's interested in Stairmaster work, if you're not in cardio condition, and if you've never been to Sedona before and you've lived in anything less than 5,000 feet of elevation, Bear Mountain is going to be exactly the way it's called, Bear Mountain. Please be prepared for something like this. If you're choosing to do Bear Mountain, make sure you bring tons of water, and you got to bring a camera of some sort to be able to capture the views. And I am letting you know, guys, the entire journey from the start to the end is filled with photo opportunities that are just mind-blowing. Without a doubt, in my top 5 hikes in Sedona, Bear Mountain is going to be either number 2 or number 3. So it's an impressive place to be, and the views are just ridiculous. As always, folks, be safe, make the right decisions. If it feels like you can't go much further, don't. Don't forget, folks, I tell everybody this. You don't have to go to the end of the trail. Go to as far as you want to, or as far as you feel as your skill set is going to take you. Turn around and come back. You do not want to become a statistic, and Bear Mountain has this emotional or mental game that it plays with the false peaks that it could basically deter you. And understand, if you're halfway up, that means you have to go up and down, up and down, up and down before you get back to the parking lot. So make it the right choice when you get there. Please hike it with respect. Bear Mountain is such a special place. All of Sedona is special, but enjoy it if it's designed for you or if you are designed for it, and have a wonderful time. Loving Sedona and hiking is my life. Folks, thank you very much for listening in. God bless you all, and I hope to see you on the rocks. Thank you again for listening in today, folks. Your time and energy is greatly appreciated. Please feel free to download these episodes, favorite them, share them, and even visit my YouTube channel, Yava-Coco Productions, for all the podcast playlists and for some insanely cool videos of my hiking adventures that I do in Sedona. That all helps me to continue to bring you more exciting podcasts and videos, both for healing, spirituality, as well as just kind of amazing videos of Sedona, Arizona. For those of you wanting to dig in a little deeper, maybe you're struggling with some inner issues, or you're in a recovery path from an addiction, or just looking for inspirational discussions about healing, check out all of my podcasts on your favorite podcast players. Titles like Path to Recovery Podcast, Cognitive Awareness with a Touch of God Podcast, Bear Clan's Hiking Sedona Podcast, and yes, I even have one called Star Wars, The Bear Awakens Podcast. We are here to help you, and what we're trying to do is offer you things that can help you for free. Plus, there's entertainment involved with a lot of these anyway. So thank you again, folks. God bless you, and I hope to see you on the rocks.